What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Ship Happens episode 40. It's been a busy couple weeks. I feel like I don't know. I'll explain soon. All right, here we go. Let's get into it. It's been a busy week. We had the fair and all the stuff leading up to fair, and then I've been subbing all the time. And so typically I record. My recording office is set up in my office, in my classroom, so I don't really record when I get home. Home is kind of spent more for family time. So that's kind of where I'm at right now and what I've been kind of up to with this. So I definitely apologize for kind of the inconsistency. I promise it'll get more consistent once this fair time is over, but so is life, right? And there's a couple things I want to talk about in regards to, I think, project planning. Right now, we're in a perfect point where we need to talk about how we actually go through and plan a project. So today won't be more philosophical. It will not be a philosophical kind of episode about teaching and that sort of thing. We're going to get back to shop stuff. It's a shop-oriented podcast. I've been using it kind of wrongly, and I want to get back to shop stuff. So let's talk about some project layout, what I do to teach project layout, and how important it is to go through and lay out a project. But first, with a little bit of a musical relief, is a guy I've been following for a long time. His name is Fillmore. He has a song called Who Cares? I think you guys are going to like it. Hella fire. Here we go.
Who cares if me and you turn a 2 for 1 afternoon into a downtown last call neon night? Who cares if it's been 3 weeks, you're over him and you're on to me? What's so wrong about something that feels so right? Let them stare, let them talk, let them think whatever they want. If people don't understand, we don't care, we don't care. Who cares if the whole world knows we drink too much and we dance too close? Your lips on mine and we lose all track of time. Who cares when the lights come on? When we leave, we don't leave alone. If you don't, I don't. So who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Who cares if the band comes on and you decide that that's our song, and I drop a little cash in the jar and say play it again? Oh, who knows where the night might lead? Front porch kids are waking up with me. Friends might think it's too soon, but that's up to me and you. Who cares if the whole world knows we drink too much and we dance too close? Your lips on mine and we lose all track of time. Who cares when the lights come on? When we leave, we don't leave alone. If you don't, I don't. So who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Let them stare, let them talk, let them think whatever they want. If people don't understand, we don't care, we don't care. Who cares if the whole world knows we drink too much and we dance too close? Your lips on mine and we lose all track of time. Who cares when the lights come on? When we leave, we don't leave alone. If you don't, I don't. So who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Who cares?
Such an awesome song. I do like everything about that song. It's pretty amazing in my personal opinion. We'll move on to some new, better things. Anyway, so what we've been talking about lately in class is project design. A lot of kids ask me, or a lot of customers, people ask me to build things that a lot of students look at and be like, dude, how do you even start building that? Like, what was your goal, or how do you even begin? And I think the beginning stages of the project is the hardest part about building a project. Not necessarily the building that's hard. I mean, building is difficult. It's why why not everyone can build things, right? But the actual part of starting is hard. And we already know this. So if we were to take a look, so what I do is I teach students basically what is a consumable good. They need to figure out a couple things. One, tools. They learned that their first year, so they should be solid. Next, they need to learn about materials, consumable, not consumable. Goods that have a life or goods that are going to be consumed. I talked about this in an earlier episode, you can look in the catalog if you haven't, but I talked about basically charging customers for goods that are going to be consumed and then maybe charging customers for things that are not going to be consumed. For example, something that is a consumable good that has a longer useful life will be a saw blade. Hopefully you're not running through one saw blade every time you're building something. If you are, you're doing it wrong. All right, redo it. Your saw blade should last a long time. For example, I bought a really nice saw blade, right? Really nice, Diablo. I shouldn't say it's really nice because there are better ones out there, but I bought a nice saw blade. Cost me almost $100 for the saw blade. I am still using the same saw blade for 3 years than if I would have just bought a cheap, a Venti or whatever the Home Depot like cheap brand is, right? I'm not saying that the saw should be changed out depending on what we're doing. Now we are cutting mainly softwoods, so that's going to be a lot kinder on my blades than if I was just going to be cutting a bunch of hardwoods. And to be honest, the table saw blade is probably in need of a change out pretty soon here. However, even a year of solid shop work is a good use for a table saw blade or any saw blade at that, right? And we have to expect things to break and things to wear out. We go through, in college at least, they taught us how to sharpen drill bits and that sort of thing, which is a good skill, but to be honest, drill bits are so cheap nowadays, it's almost better just to run through a bunch of them and save the time of sharpening than it is to, like I said, sharpen it. And now I know a lot of people are maybe listening like, oh, that is not classic. That's not, that's not the best, most cost-effective way. Well, I mean, honestly, it's time. Is your time, however much you're charging an hour, is it worth sharpening a blade, or is it worth just buying a new one for a couple cents that will get you through the project? Because honestly, I'm not a huge fan of Harbor Freight, but if you go to Harbor Freight and buy a bunch of drill bits, you can buy a nice set for a couple bucks, and it should last you at least through the project. That's just $2. Now, I again can read your mind and be like, well, if you buy a good one, then it would last forever. Then buy a good one. It's not hard. I don't go through drill bits that fast, but I know people who do, especially people who are doing fancier kind of holes or something where they need to hide the drill bit. So I can understand. I can understand the reason for that, right? Moving on. Once we go through consumable, not consumable, we need to figure out project procedure. Going from point A, project start to project finish. What are the steps? Now, I always like to do the classic demonstration where I bring jelly, peanut butter, bread, a knife, and I tell the kids, all right, tell me how I make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And the kids always, all right, put peanut butter on the bread. And so I take the jar of peanut butter, I don't open it, I just put the entire jar on the entire loaf of bread. They're like, no, Garibaldi, no. You gotta take the bread out of the bag, then put the peanut butter on it. So I take the whole loaf of bread out and then put the peanut butter on the bare whole loaf of bread. Like, no, Garibaldi, take a slice of bread and put the peanut butter on the slice of bread. So I take the slice off and I put the entire jar of peanut butter on the slice of bread. Then they're starting to get upset. No, take the peanut butter out of the jar. So I took my hand and I scooped the entire peanut butter out the jar and I just hold it there. They're like, Garibaldi, use the knife. And I hold the knife up and I said, I'm using it. And I'm just like slicing the air. Like, no, use the knife on the peanut butter. So I start like poking holes and stabbing the peanut butter. And they said, no, put the peanut butter on the knife. So I'm holding the peanut butter in my hand, put it on the knife. I'm like, all right, take that and put it on the slice of bread. And I just set the knife down on the slice of bread. No, spread the peanut butter on the slice of bread. So I spread the peanut butter on the slice of bread and they're like, get more peanut butter if needed. And I put more peanut butter on the slice of bread. And they're like, take another slice off the loaf, take another slice out, put it on the table, right? And they walk me through the process, but they're really frustrated at first, very frustrated because like, it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You should know how to make this, Garibaldi. And I do know how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. People, or I should say kids, really try to jump the gun and assume that people know more than they really do. And I don't mean to say that people are dumb. That's not what I mean at all. What I mean is that people may not actually have this may not know or have the skill to do something like that, right? Just because you do not have the skill doesn't mean you're stupid or dumb. It just means that you do not have that skill and then you can be taught that skill. Now, if you do something idiotic multiple times, then you are stupid or dumb, right? But I digress. Anyways, so let's move on. So once kids know how to write a procedure list, they practice this over a course of like a month. So these kids won't be done with this unit until the end of October. When you're listening to this, I'm going to try to post this today, October 8th. You may be listening to this the 9th or whatever, but October 29th, they should be done with their project, or they should be done with this kind of thing. And they're going to plan out a project that they're going to build. Should be very basic, very simple, right? But these kids struggle with this whole, idea of planning out projects. So what I do is I show them a video. They write down a list of tools they need for that project in the video. Then they write down the materials. Is it a consumable? Is it not a consumable? Can it be used again? So on and so forth. Then they write down a list of procedures. What do they do step 1? What do they do step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, all the way across? Excuse me. So what are they doing in that, right? What are the steps that they are taking? So once they figure out those steps, then they're able to plan out a project. Still, once you get a picture and you're like, I want to build this. I have a picture of this bench I saw. I really want to build it. Okay, well, there's some things that we need to do to figure out what kind of bench you want from this. Okay, let's see if we can find a project plan for a similar bench, just so we can see how they're supporting that bench. We need to see some examples of a bench if we're just building one straight from scratch. Once they can find some sort of example from building a fence, then we can go through the actual entire process of, planning, doing that sort of thing. However, if they do not have an idea, if they're like, I can't find plans or something, this is like totally custom, that's cool too. Then we need to look at a couple different things. How big do they want this bench, right? What spot do they need to place this? I'll share a story. I have a teacher here in school who wants to build a TV stand for her husband. Her husband collects football helmets, and she wants the TV stand to be able to show off these helmets and, be a nice accent point for the TV. No problem. We can get that done. So what I did was I sketched out. I figured out, okay, how long do you want this to be? How wide? Okay, how deep do you want it? I guess is the better option. Then I do a rough sketch. Kind of sketch out squares, that sort of thing. I look up how much or how big a helmet is in the NFL, and I get all that set up. Then I start figuring out how many parts I need and how many sheets of material I may need. We're definitely gonna need plywood, right? And we're gonna build that TV cabinet out of that, and we're gonna do drawers, all that jazz, right? So we need to make sure that we have everything in order, and that's just building something off of a sheer idea. It's not building something that has a plan or anything like that. It's building something just out of an idea. I already know how to make a TV stand. It's just a basic box, and it's pretty simple to make, right? So how do we start? That's how we do it. We start with looking at a picture, studying it, watching it, figuring out what we can find. If you have no idea how to even remotely start to build something, try to find an example of that, right? Try to find that example. Okay, this is a shorter episode because I got stuff to do. I got grades to do, but I want to get you guys an episode out about project planning, about something, right? So you can hear my voice, I guess. If you're living for that, then got it. All right, guys, appreciate every single one of you. Peace. This has been an episode of the Chip Happens podcast. Thank you all for listening, and I will catch you next week with another exciting episode.